What's good, family? My name is Clem de la Creme. Thank you for being here with me right now. So today's Monday, and had a pretty good weekend. On Friday, I had some studio time, so was in there working and recording with Canava. And then later, I went to a friend's gallery, not gallery, but she had her work in part of an exhibition. She goes by Sado the Strange, and she does paintings that are not heavily, they have like religious basings behind them. She was raised Catholic, but she also has her own little personal twists and stories that go along with her pieces, and yeah, they're quite powerful. But there's something you have to see in person, so I don't know, I'm not gonna try and discuss or describe that right here, right now. And it was cool to be able to see some people over there and to listen and vibe out to the music. And then I went out with a couple other friends to check out. We were trying to find some different like clubs or bars and stuff to go, like where they had good music and stuff. And one of the dudes, Gigi, he was taking us to a place that was playing minimal music, and he was really excited about it. And I always love seeing people get really excited about something, and this is something he was stoked about. So we're there for a minute, but it was late. And for those of you that know, I haven't had caffeine in a month, and that night I ended up having Coca-Cola. And so I like the sugar and the caffeine, had me a little bit more awake and stuff. But I was like, buzzing from that. And then I got home, got some rest, and Saturday, I told myself I'm gonna spend the whole day working on a paper that was due last night at midnight. So, got home. Not got home because it was a Saturday, but was home and was working on this paper. And it was my first academic paper that I've written in years, and so it took me a while, to really get into it, because I kept like looking at research and kept debating like, how do I approach this? Where should I start? And I wasn't quite sure, where I wanted to start and how I wanted to do it. And what the issue turned out to be was the word count. So it had to be 750 words with a 10% swing. So at maximum, it could be 825 words. Now, to discuss and share and explain everything, and then also go further and make your own points on it, that was kind of tough. I did some writing on it and been working on that day, and then I don't think I went out anywhere Saturday night. I think I stayed in and still trying to work on the paper. But Sunday, I woke up to keep working on it, and I did check the word count, and it was already over 900 words, and I had only discussed and talked about half of what I wanted to talk about. And so I was like, well, dang, whatever, it's gonna work itself out. And then I went to go eat some food and meet with one of my future flatmates, Alex, and that was cool. I'm moving into a new place tomorrow, which I'm excited about, but we can talk about that another time. I came back and did a little more work, but I had been planning to do a performance with Sean Savvy. He's got a group called the Paper Boat Collective, I think they're called, and he was hosting an event there. And so this is the first time they're hosting like a hip hop event there on a Sunday, and he gave me a 30-minute slot, and so I was excited to go and be there to do that. But I had only done minimal preparation for a set, and I didn't know all the songs I was gonna do. So I brought my computers and went to, and I got there and I started making my set list. Well, I made my set list earlier in the day, but I started putting it all on the USB, and then some friends showed up. Santi showed up, and Susan showed up, and Nick showed up. So it was cool to have some friends there who came to support and to see me do my thing, because I love share my work and my art with other people. And it was a very small, intimate setting. There was only a couple of people who were there. Carol, I think her name was Carol or Cara. I know I'm saying her name wrong. And then there was also Adisa, and they actually have a show tomorrow night. I think they call it like the Red and Black R&B party. It's gonna be, I don't know the venue, but that's going down tomorrow. And yeah, it was cool. And then after we each had our sets, we did some freestyling and stuff, and I love freestyling, so that was cool. It was a good way to get my Sunday going. But I'm there talking to people and having a good time, and I realized, oh, I didn't finish my paper yet. So I say some quick goodbyes, peace out the door and get home, and just start writing and start getting back to it. And I stopped working on the first part that I was still trying to finish and fine tune, and start working on the second half, the other function of Ableton that I was trying to talk about, because in my paper I was talking about step sequencing and warping. So the battery died in the camera, and I think where I left off I was talking about my paper, and I was talking about warping and step sequencing. But I went into the history a little bit, just because, like I said, I only had so many words I could talk about. And I talked about MIDI files and stuff, and how music boxes and player pianos and stuff were some of the earlier forms of it. But yeah, I described that. I described the different functions of the warping tools in Ableton, and I went on to talk about different ways you could use them to play with them and work with different sounds and stuff. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's interested and they actually want to read that paper or something. Let me know. I could send it to you. You can drop it in the comments or something, or send me a private message with your email. Anyways, yeah, I got that paper in just in the nick of time. I did the formatting. I was going through it, checking the spelling and stuff. I went through Google Translate, and I had it speak out my paper, so it helped me catch certain areas where I missed a word here, or used the wrong word accidentally, just because I was typing fast. And yeah, once it was formatted and everything, got my bibliography done. I got it there just in time, just in time, 11:58. And so I'm grateful that there weren't any issues with the internet or anything else. I'd been working on this paper previously, but it had taken me much longer to actually write than I had anticipated. Like I said, it was hard for me to keep the words down. I had to chop up a whole bunch of stuff and then to keep it all down. I got it, I told you I was only halfway down the paper, and it was already over 900 words. And I got it down to 822 words, and I had talked about everything I needed to talk about, except for really elaborating a whole lot and giving a ton on my opinion on things and going further. But I explained everything well, and gave a little bit of an explanation of things you can do with the two functions working together and stuff. Yeah, today was Ableton class, which was what the paper was for, but in class we worked on our final pieces, which are due in about 2 weeks. And today was kind of talking about mixing, and they focused a lot on EQing and compression. And I've done a bit of that on my own work in the past, a lot of it from watching YouTube videos and talking to different people, and collecting my notes and just kind of working with some stuff that works for me. Then I switch my process here and there, and then I get lazy at different times and use Neutron and do some auto mixing and stuff like that. And I know I was going to do some auto mastering, but we're talking about mastering next week, I believe. Anyways, with EQing and things, one of the things that that my teacher was trying to hammer home was that you should not be really raising the level of your master track. You should be able to get everything else where it needs to be at that point. You don't want to be having a specific track and raising the volume on that one, but then having to lower the volume on the group that it's in, and then later trying to raise the volume on your master and stuff like that. You want to have all your levels done. Think about if you have a picture, and you enlarge the picture so it gets a little bit pixelated and loses a bit of the quality, and then let's say you save that and export that, and then you put it back in, you shrink it down because you want the image to be a little smaller, and it gets smaller, but you lost a bit of the detail and a bit of the clarity in the photo. And then maybe you put it back in and you try to enlarge it again, it just gets even more blurry and fuzzy. So sound is similar in that way, whereas if you're trying to make things louder, you're losing a bit of the quality when you're enlarging it and shrinking it, enlarging it and shrinking it again. So it's from the get-go in the beginning to get the levels kind of where you want them and work from there. As well as with EQing, rather than boosting lots of other things, it's better to do subtractive EQing. So taking different frequencies and sounds out and using bandwidth to make things wider. But in there, you kind of got to see where the instruments and where all the sounds lie, because you want to understand what space they're taking up and what signals, what frequencies are coming through, so you can have it come through as you want it, make the things come through clear and not have it sound muddy. You want to have two sounds fighting each other, so you have like a kick drum and a bass, for instance, and they're fighting for the same frequencies, fighting for the same space. You don't want that. And that's later where, through some compression, we learned some interesting effects and some things that we could do. With compressing, you can use it so it'll like squash down some of the sound and also boost it. So what it does, like, makes the higher sounds, brings those lower, as well as it brings the lower, more quieter sounds and brings those up. And together, like that right there, the compression makes things sound a little bit fuller usually. But you don't want to use too much compression, because then I guess you can use it stylistically maybe, but as a general rule, don't use a ton of compression. And don't forget that a lot of the times when things get louder, you automatically think they sound better. So be careful with that, because maybe you just have stuff that sounds really loud and it actually doesn't sound better. So one thing to do is to make sure you're checking your levels and making sure the output levels are the same as you're compressing, as you're doing other things. So that way, like, you can really understand what the compressor is doing, because it can be making it like seem louder, but it's really just like making it much fuller, and the volume is still staying the same. And that's what's really cool about it. But one thing we also looked at was side chaining. So side chaining the different instruments to make room for each other, as well as create some different effects. So if you have, I'm gonna go back to the bass and the kick drum again, but if you threw, maybe a compressor on the bass, and then you side chain that off to the kick, so the kick was affecting the compressor. Anytime the kick comes in, that's when it will squash down any other sounds and bring out some other stuff like that in the bass. You can get some really interesting effects and get almost like a push and pull from the kick drum and the bass guitar, or not guitar, just your bass. But I'm gonna have fun playing with that later for sure, and bring out some different sounds. But that is a lot of the stuff that we talked about today in class, and then just worked on our pieces. And so I did a little more with some of the structuring of my piece. As I think I mentioned maybe before, the piece I'm working on has Jersey Club elements with some house elements, and yeah, it's kind of experimental, but I like it. I like some of the directions it's going. There's some stuff I'm probably gonna chop out, and some things I'm gonna develop a little bit more, but it's a good piece, and it's something that started from nothing. So creatively, I wasn't using one of my outlines. So creatively, it's I think more exciting than some of my other stuff. When I'm working from nothing, then things go in interesting directions and all that. When I use my templates, I can work quicker and create cool things faster, but they're not as creative and don't have as, maybe I'll say don't have as much of my own flavor on it, but they don't have a certain element of some of the spontaneity, because I try to fill a certain format that I have going that works, that I like, that that other people seem to like too. But for those of you that have struggled finishing projects, work with a template, because that will help you finish more things and help you create more things too, because you know exactly where the stuff lies, and you can keep your the sounds that you like already in your template, so you don't have to be searching for what kicks am I going to use and what other drums and stuff, because you have your sound in there. You have the basic layout and the line for it with your rhythms and stuff. But yeah, that's what's going on. Today's one of my friend's birthdays, so happy birthday, Diego. He's out with a couple other friends getting some vegetables and other things like that. We're about to cook, celebrate the birthday, because it's important to be able to just enjoy moments and meals and share that together with each other. Yeah, that's something I love to do. I love to cook with other people and appreciate those moments. But yeah, we're gonna cook some bad as Mexican food. And you know that I'm still doing the vegan thing, so I got that vegan soy chorizo and some vegan cheese to go with all the stuff, but it's gonna be good. Anyways, I'm moving to my new place tomorrow. I'll let y'all know more about that later. I love you. I hope that you're enjoying this day wherever you are, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Peace.